foreign predatory parasitic corporations are replacing our natural environment with an industrial landscape of wind turbines. One Nation will stand against sending children down a path of drug dependency and body mutilation to appease the gender cult. Leave our kids alone. The Trusted Digital Identity Bill is a global surveillance and control mechanism that profit-hungry corporations and power-mad politicians drafted and crafted. One Nation opposes this inhuman, dystopian future that the United Nations promotes as the Great Reset, and we condemn this Parliament for signing on to it. I called for Australia to reject the World Economic Forum's Great Reset and instead mount a great resist. Just like the koalas being euthanised to make way for wind turbines, or damaged solar panels leaking toxic heavy metals into waterways, the United Nations net zero plan again involves killing the environment to save it. I've been speaking about the fear, the oppression and the inhuman cruelty of our COVID response since July 2020. I promised to hound down those responsible, and I will continue relentlessly to keep that promise. You're about to be live with me, Senator Malcolm Roberts. Well, g'day. It's the weekly wrap-up from the only real opposition party in this country, the only party serving the Australian people. And I'm smiling because I've just come back from North Queensland. I always enjoy myself in North Queensland. It's very brief, very rushed, but I'll share some of the details with you later. I went to Townsville first, then down to Hinchinbrook, then back to Townsville, met some people proposing a new business. They want some support. Really fantastic idea. I'll tell you more about that when I can. And then went to Kuranda yesterday, flew very early in the morning to Cairns, and then went to Kuranda and had a wonderful discussion all day with a remarkable bloke who's really blowing the cobwebs out of Chris Bowen's office. He's got some real evidence there that is just stunning. So anyway, we'll get to that. First, I just want to say that some people have asked us why I didn't appear at the Senate inquiry into legislation. Let me just get the legislation name. Defence Amendment, Defence Honours and Awards Appeals Tribunal Bill 2025. This is basically a bill that says we're going to ignore the inquiry and all the reports that came through, the fabulous speakers, and there were some amazing speakers from veterans and serving defence people. We're going to ignore all of that and just give defence top brass their way. So it was for naught. But everything's on the record, so it's not really for naught. But anyway, we've made our position very clear that this bill is to stifle appeals on defence's decisions on awards. In other words, people make inquiries, make nominations, defence shuts them down. You used to be able to appeal, no appeal. I don't know when the Department of Defence and the defence top brass are going to wake up. This affects morale when you shut down people's voice. It affects morale. So I couldn't make it yesterday. People asking why. Two reasons. First of all, I had commitments, long-standing commitments in North Queensland, very important commitments. And secondly, it wasn't an inquiry into Defence Honours Award system. It was an inquiry into the bill to allow the defence top brass to have an appeal. We've already made our position very clear. Right, now we move on to digital ID, and I'm going to switch between the camera and the screen off to the side here, because some of these notes have been put together by my staff so that I could just walk straight into the office, have a quick read and get on to it. Apparently there's been some, I didn't hear because I don't check the news when I'm in North Queensland, but people say there's been a leak of numbers, phone numbers, including Prime Minister Albanese's phone number, Opposition Leader Susan Lay's number, former Prime Minister Scott Morrison's phone number, mobile numbers, New South Wales Premier Chris Minns and many other prominent figures from around the world were leaked online. Looks like ChatGPT's been up to its little tricks, eh? It's got incredible intelligence, and here it goes. I don't know if it's got intelligence, but it can do things bloody quickly. So, yeah, it was done using AI, artificial intelligence, through the internet, and that can scour the internet. You know, I'll just go off on a sidetrack here, because people think that artificial intelligence is intelligent, and there are some aspects of it that are, but it's basically scours the internet and amalgamates everything it finds on the internet and gives you an opinion on that. So there's so much crap on the internet, it gives you part of the crap as well. So there is a mode, and I'm going to show you how a very good colleague of mine has used that. I'm going to have a couple of days with him down south of Canberra. It's called super rational mode. So when you ask it to, when you ask ChatGPT to find something using super rational mode, it'll only grab those things that are rational and put them together and dish it up. And it's completely different from the normal crap it pushes out from the internet. Anyway, that's a really important tool. ChatGPT understands the difference between rational thought and just sloppy thinking. Anyway, we've got the phone numbers now of the people who are pushing the digital ID, and they've got their numbers out in the open. This just shows how bad digital ID is. Now, ChatGPT did this search without digital ID, presumably, so it's not directly attributable to digital ID, but it shows what I'm talking about. You just need a slight break in the security of a digital ID system, and that's it, gone. And so that's why Pauline and I opposed it, completely opposed it. We opposed it from the start when Morrison flagged it under the Liberal government. We belted it out of the park with Albanese when he raised it as a bill that the Labor Party pushed. This is with Liberal and Labor working together. And we've gone through 5 bills that they have done together and pushed that are clamping down on censorship, clamping down on free speech and free rights in this country. We opposed all of them. So the government can't even manage the personal numbers of some of our most prominent figures, but they want us to trust their digital ID. It's complete crap. This is one of the reasons why we opposed the Labor Liberal digital ID. And by the way, I just want to make a point. Pauline Hanson introduced a national ID card to protect people from Medicare fraud, to protect taxpayers from Medicare fraud. It had no biometric data, none at all. It was not connected to a database. All it had was a picture, just like a driver's license, a picture of your face, so that when you go in to get Medicare payments or charge Medicare, they can check that it's you and not someone in an extended family from an immigrant who's ripping off the Medicare system and the PBS system. That's the difference. Pauline introduced a Medicare protection card, a national ID card that had no biometric data, that was there to protect taxpayers, protect welfare recipients, protect the country, and could not be used for digital ID, could not be used for digital ID. And we did that to protect the people of the country. Right, let's get on to some really touchy topics. Well, it's not so much touchy these days. We've been pushing it for 4 or 5 years, and Pauline, to her credit, has been pushing it for decades, literally decades. But my office and I have been pushing it pretty assertively and aggressively with a lot of hard numbers for the last 4 or 5 years. Actually, second last year of Morrison's term, which was 2020, so 5 years, yeah. So I'll give you some straight out figures with no detail, and then we'll get into the detail. There are 4.5 million people in our country who are not citizens of Australia. 4.5 million. There are 100,000 illegal people here illegally. We want to deport them. There are 200,000. Now, this figure I haven't checked in some time, but this figure I think is correct. It's certainly in the order of magnitude is correct. 200,000 students who have finished their education but haven't gone home. That's the headline figures. I forgot to mention, 2.9 million people on temporary visas, temporary residence visas. 4.5 million people here not citizens, 2.9 on temporary resident visas, taking up housing. We need to deport 100,000 of the illegals, need to send home 200,000 graduated students, and we need to remigrate people. Well, I'll get to some of the people that we need to remigrate in a minute. Remigrate, what's that? It's a term that's come from Europe. It means send home people who are not needed in terms of skills or who are not fitting in, send them home to either the place where they came from or their actual home, where they were previously or their actual home. Send them home. We need to have tighter restrictions on visas and make sure they're enforced once they're here. And this is something that I want to get onto. We've raised this before. Prime Minister Albanese has said we're bringing in construction workers. That is complete rubbish. Of the migrants who have come in the last year, 2 years, 0.6% are skilled construction workers. 0.6%. That's about 2/3 of 1%. They've got to build houses for the existing backlog here and the other 99.4% of immigrants who are coming in under Anthony Albanese's record-breaking mass migration. We need more skilled people who are skilled in house building. Not yoga teachers, not Uber drivers, not auctioneers. We need to cut immigration. We need to end mass migration. If you have a look at the, can they see that, Ryan? That pie chart? They can't. 86.6, 90% of people coming in are not skilled. They're unskilled. Skilled are about 12%. That's it. That's it. And trades, less than 1%, or just, 1.25%. It's rubbish, we're being told. And I want to quote from two really effective commentators on housing, on immigration. First one is Matt Barry. I've been meaning to interview him, do a podcast with him. He's a fabulous bloke. He's really strong on data, as is the next guy, Tarek Brooker. Both strong on data, and they make perfect sense, very practical people. Turns out 60%, according to Matt Barry, it says that a bombshell report says 60% of migrants are family reunification or partners. Double the amount claimed. Double the amount that the government claims. 12% of migrants are skilled, where skilled is somewhat dubious. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, 12%. So Matt Barry has highlighted that again. Tarek Brooker, also known as avid commentator, he has said skilled migration makes up a small proportion of migration into Australia despite perceptions to the contrary. Have a look at this chart. You've got that up there now? They can see it? Can you scroll it up for me, please, so that I can see it? Okay. Net migration. Look at the numbers. The blue down the bottom is permanent migrants skilled. The orange next up is temporary skilled. You can see it's just a tiny fraction. So it's about 10%. Well, you'd expect that, about 12%. Other, non-skilled, is the vast majority. And it hasn't just been Albanese, it's been right from the word go when John Howard, the Liberal National Party Prime Minister, doubled immigration and started mass migration into this country. Took it over a quarter of a million people, net migration into the country. Every year we have some leaving and more coming in. The net migration is the difference between those leaving and those coming in, which means we've added 250,000 migrants, going back to 2007 when John Howard's last year. Rudd took it up slightly, then it came down in Gillard's years, and then bobbled around about 230, 250,000 a year. COVID was where it dropped below zero. A lot of people went home. And then look what Anthony Albanese's done. He has doubled the previous high record. He's more than doubled it. And is there any wonder there's a housing crisis? There was a bloody housing crisis before Albanese entered. Now with him flooding the country with mass migration, there is a huge crisis in housing. We have heard stories of people in the street sleeping under bridges who are recent immigrants into our country. They were given government accommodation, but they were kicked out when the next flood of migrants arrived. This is not right. It's completely wrong. Completely wrong. Both the recent and the very recent are taking up housing that should be for Australians. I'll talk more about that in a minute. I want to make 3 points about mass immigration. Homelessness is at record levels. It's deliberate. It's mass migration directly. Sure, there are financial aspects and other aspects, economic aspects. Sure, that applies. And that goes back to John Howard's years as well when he made some changes. We accept that. Well, we don't accept it, but we acknowledge that. But the big crisis in housing now is due to homelessness, is due to mass migration. Infrastructure is bursting. We haven't built much new infrastructure in decades. Wages growth is being suppressed, and that helps a lot of companies that BlackRock owns. BlackRock, Vanguard, State. I call it BlackRock Inc. BlackRock Inc. means the interlocking components of BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, First State, Norges, etc., the global wealth funds. They act as one group, and they own a significant chunk of many large Australian companies. 90% of Australia's large companies are foreign-owned, and since 1953 have paid little or no tax. So BlackRock and Co. are getting away with running the companies here, controlling interests. Sometimes that's not a majority, but controlling interest, and they get away without paying tax. And then you see the suppression of the cost of living, the increase in the cost of living, dramatic increase in cost of living due to energy prices, and mass migration bumping up prices. So cost of living is skyrocketing because of mass migration and electricity prices rising. That means a decrease in standard of living. A decrease in standard of living for every single person in this country, apart from the elitist rich. Every single person outside that. The middle class, the lower class, the upper middle class suffering from a cost of living increase and a standard of living decrease. I'll go through those numbers again. 4.5 million people here who are not citizens, 2.9 million temporary resident visas, 100,000 of them who are illegal and should be deported immediately. Re-immigration, take the people not fitting in or who we don't need and return them to the previous home. 100 to 200,000 students in breach of visa. They've graduated, they've finished their education, they've come here on a Ponzi scheme to work. Send them home. My wife gave me this figure, actually. So it's not one of these fancy statistics from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, but she did a quick little calculation in 1991 and in 2024. She just plugged in the ratio of net overseas migration to total population. I haven't seen whether it's justifiable or not, or valid or not, but it sounds pretty sensible. She's just trying to get the ratio between net overseas migration into the country and the total population. In other words, the capacity of the total population to withstand people coming in. It's gone from 0.6 to 1.6. It's nearly tripled. So the proportion has nearly tripled in 33 years. And this hurts particularly young people, 18 to 25-year-olds, who I think are Australia's most lied to generation ever. They've been told, work hard, study hard, save, settle down, get married, have kids, housing's affordable. Working hard for what? The government to take your money, steal your effort, steal your future? People in North Queensland were telling me, people in the state are telling me, people in southern Queensland, central Queensland are telling me, young people cannot see how they can get a house. We've got 3 wonderful young guys in our office, as electorate office. They're telling me the same thing. It is extremely difficult. And yet when I was growing up, we had a sense of community. We had one parent at home all the time. We had the possibility of getting a house if we just worked hard. That's all. Worked hard. Don't blame migrants for this. Many people watching, many people in Australia are migrants. We're not blaming migrants. I'm a migrant. We're not blaming migrants because they don't make the migration policy. The immigration policy is made by politicians in Canberra, Labor and Liberal. They have caused this. They're introducing United Nations and World Economic Forum policies, but you can't blame them either because it's still the bastards in Canberra who push it through the legislature and enact it as legislation. They are directly responsible. Note this. Anthony Albanese every year has promised to cut immigration, and each year it's got higher. He's acknowledged that it's out of control and needs to be cut, and yet it's higher. It's more than 500,000 net migrants coming every year into this country. And he's from the Labor Party, Party of the Workers, suppressing wages. But it's the other people as well, the Liberal Nationals, are the ones who started it under John Howard. He started mass migration. The Uni Party's immigration has no plan, no consent from the population, from the people. It's not targeted to Australia's needs. I'll say it again. Immigration policy, number one priority is to look after the people already in the country. Bring the skills, bring people who fit in, people who assimilate and integrate. The immigration policy at the moment under both Labor and Liberal for over a decade now, for 18 years, almost 2 decades, has been to push UN agenda. Stop taking everyone from anywhere all the time. One nation policy is to let fewer people into the country than leave every year, so net negative population, total population drops as a result of net negative migration until we catch up with our housing, until every Australian has a roof over their heads and a bed that they can sleep in. Right, the second aspect of immigration is the quality. And this arguably is even more important than the numbers. We need to bring in people, just like we brought them in the 50s and 60s under both Liberal and Labor policies. We brought in people through a rigorous, after they passed a rigorous test, and they had skills, they could be immediately put to work and work for the country. Work for the country, not put out their hand and get welfare as soon as they arrive. Not bludge on Australians. People with skills, there's that word again. As I said, don't blame the immigrants because they're just wanting a better life, and why wouldn't you come to Australia? So blame the politicians that caused it. The third aspect of immigration, and this is arguably the most, well, it is the most important. Culture, Australia's spirit, social cohesion, culture. Culture in any organisation, whether it's a football club or a church or a large corporation or a small business, the culture, and you can tell this when you walk into any business. You can tell the difference between one retail shop and another retail shop, between one fast food restaurant and another one. The culture determines the productivity, determines the security, determines the safety, determines longevity of that organisation. And if you want proof for countries, think about what I call the tight five. Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, Singapore, and China. They are very, very fussy as to who they let into their borders. Very fussy, because culture to them is extremely important. They're not racist. They just want to manage their immigration properly. All 5 of those countries together. They're the tight 5, they're the East Asians. Multiculturalism in Australia that was introduced by Bob Hawke and championed by John Howard and really opened up the gates on it with John Howard's prime ministership. Multiculturalism destroys Australia's culture. Because people used to be brought into Australia on the condition that they would fit into the culture, the laws. Now they're told, bring your culture with you. No, not right. This is engineered change. It's not organic change. It's engineered by both the Liberal Party and the Labor Party. Again, don't blame the immigrants, blame the Prime Ministers and the Members of Parliament. There's one other thing that I want to talk about briefly, and that's identity. It's our nation's roots, our history and our heritage, Western civilization. Very, very important to understand that. And I'm going to quote from a remarkable man from Sri Lanka. He settled here when his family came in and he was 5 years of age. I have worked in 8 different states of America. I've travelled through all 50 states. I've been educated at one of the best universities in the world in Chicago, in America. I've travelled through all 50 states, as I said. I married an American. She's got dual citizenship. She's an Aussie though now. Still got a Yankee twang, but she's an Aussie. She barracks for in the Olympics. She barracks for us, not for the Yanks. Second one, if the Australians get knocked out, then she barracks for the Yanks. But she's an Aussie. She's had 35 years here and loves the place. Our children are both dual citizens. But I am not American in the least. I admire the country. I especially admire its pioneers. But I am not American. I'm an Australian. My wife is Australian. My kids are Australian. I was born in India. Had my formative years there. I mixed with kids and adults who were Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, Baha'i, Christians, who else? Atheists, agnostics, all mixes come into India. But because I was born there, it doesn't make me Indian. I had my formative years there. That doesn't make me Indian. I am not Indian. I admire many Indians, but I am not Indian. I'm an Aussie. I'm an Australian. That reminds me of the story I want to tell you about Rukshan Fernando, who arrived in 1990 as a 5-year-old from Sri Lanka. His skin is a lot darker than mine, but his blood is red, and he's an Aussie. He's a really strong Aussie. He's made a video, and I recommend you go and look for it. It's on X at least. It might be available on YouTube. 5 minutes, that's all it is. He says it so well. I'll take a few quotes from it. It really impressed me when I saw this video. It could have been someone who's born here talking about it. This is exactly what we want in Australians. His video, he says, we must be, quote, respecting what it means to be Australian. And, quote, we must preserve our country's history and heritage. And he says Australia is losing its identity. His family came here because of the Australian identity, and we're losing it. And he said we need to preserve Western history and traditions. And he's telling us to, quote, be proud of our history. And he dares to accurately, quote, raise Australia's Anglo roots, British heritage. He realises that's what gave us modern Western civilization, and that's what gave Australia its culture and its lifestyle. Rukshan wants to give back to his country. He says, we do that by respecting Australia's history and roots. Look at our constitution. It's based on Christian principles. These are things that we need to remember, identify Australians. You know, I'm sure anyone who's watching this who's been overseas, and Aussie who's been overseas, what happens when you meet someone overseas? They say, who are you? I'm Malcolm Roberts and I'm Australian. I'm Malcolm Roberts, I'm from Australia. Always those two things. Family, Roberts. Nationality, Australian. Everyone does it. The two fundamental structures for the basis for organising human civilization. It's been time immemorial. That's been the case. UN's trying to destroy that. Labor and Liberal are trying to destroy that. Scroll back again, please, Ryan. So this is all about Australia's soul, identity, lifestyle, prosperity. I'm Australia first. And we need to distinguish between people who love Australia and people who love the lifestyle that they've had in Australia. Okay, you're going to put that up on the screen. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we're going to play your video.
Arrivals, that is arrivals minus departures, totalled 31,450 for the month, 32% more than last August. For the first 8 months of the year, 379,850 more people arrived permanently than left, a rise of 6.4% over the same period last year.
So yet again, Anthony Albanese has broken his promise of cutting migration. He said we will cut back on migration once we achieve pre-COVID levels. Pre-COVID levels, 1.9 million people on temporary resident visas. It got up to 2.9 by the end of a couple of years ago, 2.9 million. We'd done that before he even got into power. Prime Minister received a letter from Pauline Hanson, our Pauline, saying, send people back to Gaza. Send people back to Gaza. Under the peace plan, Gaza is going to be rebuilt. The bulldozers apparently have already started work, started the day the ceasefire deal was done, and they want to rebuild Gaza. They need workers. Send them back. Send the people who've come here from Gaza recently, send them back. Remigrate them. That'd be beneficial for Gaza and beneficial for us. And so what happens? And we know that there are terrorists in Gaza, cruel, inhuman terrorists, killing their own people. So what do we learn this week? Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke said that as many as 700 Gazans would arrive in Australia in the future. Meanwhile, Gaza's neighbours, including Egypt and Jordan and Arab countries, have refused to take refugees despite the 2-year Israel-Hamas war. The Arab countries are not taking Gazan refugees. They are not taking Gazan refugees. We are. Australia's immigration policy needs to be based, number one, on meeting the needs of Australians and Australia. That's not happening. Another pet topic. The global carbon tax, or as I can't resist it, it's a global carbon dioxide tax. The global carbon dioxide tax is the latest nightmare from the UN, which Australia helped draft in April of 2024 underneath Anthony Albanese. It's meant to, quote, slash emissions, carbon dioxide output, in the global shipping industry by putting an additional carbon price on fuel. Who pays for this bloody nonsense? The people who use the ships, who pass it on to the people who buy the products that come off the ships. You do. I do. It's just insane. You know, including our products have to get extra shipping charges on them. Our products to China, our products to Southeast Asia, our products to India, our products to America. And the wind turbines coming down, and we subsidise them. It's just nuts. The US, fortunately, wants nothing to do with the plan. Donald Trump has said so. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said, I'll quote, this framework, the tax framework, the carbon tax framework, what I call carbon dioxide tax framework, is a direct assault on American sovereignty and economic interests coming from the UN. It would cripple supply chains and punish American workers. The NZF proposal poses significant risks to the global economy and subjects not just Americans, but all international maritime organization member states to an unsanctioned global tax regime that levies punitive and regressive financial penalties, which could be avoided. That's the end of that quote. You can see this. This is a global tax that the UN basically is trying to push. And did it have any mandate to do it? No, it didn't. But it's still doing it. So Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, opposing it very, very clearly. He said, I can read that. You got that up there? I'm outraged that the International Maritime, this is Trump speaking, I'm outraged that the International Maritime Organization is voting in London this week to pass a global carbon tax. The United States will not stand for this global green new scam. Oh, I love his words. Tax on shipping, and will not adhere to it in any way, shape or form. He's just told the UN to bugger off. We will not tolerate increased prices on American consumers or the creation of a green news scam bureaucracy to spend your money, taxpayer money, on their green dreams, green nightmare. Stand with the United States and vote no in London tomorrow. So he's telling them, vote no or else. The Albanese government, what do you think it'll do? It'll do what the Howard government did. It'll do what the Abbott government did. It'll do what the Turnbull government did, what the Morrison government did. And where they did their furtive agreements quietly and subtly with the UN, Paris Agreement, Kyoto Protocol, all the rest of them, Albanese would probably trumpet it. From the Daily Mail news service, the Albanese government is expected to reaffirm its support for the net zero framework at a key vote this Friday during the International Maritime Organization Summit in London. That's a quote from the paper. Donald Trump has made it clear he will punish nations which back the global carbon tax. Will Albanese face questions about this in his White House meeting? I wonder. By the way, the safeguard mechanism, well, let's go back a step. Julia Gillard broke a promise to the election, before the election in 2011, I think it was, 2010, sorry, to not put in a carbon dioxide tax. She broke that promise as soon as she got in and paid the consequences and got voted out in 2013. Tony Abbott rescinded the carbon dioxide tax. Malcolm Turnbull took over less than 2 years later, and he, as the Liberal National Prime Minister, together with Greg Hunt, put in place the safeguard mechanism, slipped it through the Parliament in December of 2015, quietly. It was a framework for a global carbon dioxide tax, the safeguard mechanism. Anthony Albanese got in 2022, and one of the first things he did, and along with Chris Bowen, was pump up the safeguard tax. Every major policy on climate and energy in this country has been introduced by the Liberal Nationals and then pumped up by the Labor Party. They're in it together. But now here we go. More stuff that comes out of the south end of a northbound bull. I'll read, from the article. Queensland's tropical rainforests have passed a critical climate threshold, shifting from carbon sinks to carbon sources, a landmark study has found. A change, an expert warns, could undermine the nation's climate targets. In other words, the rainforests that are supposedly, we're told, absorbing carbon dioxide as a sink, are producing carbon dioxide. You know, and that's not new. That is not new. The Amazon rainforests, above the Amazon rainforests, are some of the highest carbon dioxide concentrations in the world. Mind you, what we're talking about is 0.04%, which is 2/5 of bugger all. It's a trace gas because there's hardly anything of it. But so it's not new that rainforests produce carbon dioxide. This shows you how little they know about nature's carbon dioxide, let alone human carbon dioxide. None of these taxes are going to be based on measured outputs of carbon dioxide. They're all going to be guessed from algorithms, assessed, estimated. I'll keep reading. The research based on the world's longest and most comprehensive forest monitoring data reveals trees in Queensland's tropical rainforests are now releasing more carbon, should be carbon dioxide, than they absorb, a reversal driven by the intensifying impacts of climate change. How the hell do they know that? There's no evidence. Once hailed as the lungs of the earth for their ability to store carbon dioxide, these forests are now contributing to atmospheric carbon dioxide levels, raising serious questions about how Australia calculates its greenhouse gas emissions. when you understand about carbon dioxide, you realize that nature, and this is something the UN has admitted, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has admitted, nature produces 97% of the world's carbon dioxide. Humans produce 3%. UN climate body's official figure, quoted by the American Environmental Protection Agency a couple of decades ago, a decade ago. The variation alone in nature's production of carbon dioxide, I'm estimating, is greater than the total human production. And if we shut down production overnight, all that would happen is the oceans would release more carbon dioxide. That's what controls the level. The temperature drives the carbon dioxide level, not the other way around. And then we had major recessions where our use of coal, oil and natural gas decreased. Exactly the scenario that the UN says they want, and they said that as a result of that the carbon dioxide levels would go down. Well, they're not, because they're controlled by the oceans. They're not going down. In 2009 we had a year-long recession after the global financial crisis. We produced less human carbon dioxide. The level in the atmosphere didn't miss a beat, kept increasing. Same in 2020 with the COVID restrictions, the COVID government restrictions all around the world, almost a depression. Carbon dioxide levels continued rising after the UN told us that it would stop because of the reduced use of coal, oil and natural gas. This is crap. This is absolute nonsense. They don't even know that a rainforest produces carbon dioxide. Some rainforests produce carbon dioxide, and yet they're trying to tell us the effect of carbon dioxide. They have no idea what they're doing. So I'd also like to comment on this post. Have you got that one up, Ryan? Net zero means high unemployment. I posted this a couple of days ago, and I said, we're trading real jobs for green dreams. The story from Anthony Albanese, a lie. The story from Chris Bowen, a lie, a monstrous lie from that man, yet again, is that we will have more jobs because solar and wind will lead to more jobs. Solar and wind, everywhere they've been used around the world in any significant proportion, have increased the cost of electricity. When you increase the cost of electricity, you reduce jobs. Full stop, end of story. That's why China is using hydro, coal and nuclear predominantly. And how do we know this figure that I'm about to say? For every wind or solar job created, 2.3 productive jobs are lost from the economy. We had an economist provide that report to us, and he used figures from Spain, where they've had an earlier and massive swing to solar and wind, and they've gutted their economy. Germany is now up to here with solar and wind, and they've said that enough. This is economic sabotage. So when you have solar and wind, every solar and wind job leads to 2.3 jobs lost in the real economy. So we've got to say no to net zero. What's the next topic? Well, someone asked in response to my post, what's your policy to bring coal and gas prices down, Malcolm? We've already told you that. Rewrite the rules for the national electricity market to stop it favouring solar and wind, which is destroying coal. Just rewrite the rules to not favour solar and wind, but may the fittest form of power win, and that would be coal. What's the other one? Pulling figures out of the ether, Malcolm. 2.3 productive jobs, said John Arneal. There is a renewables boom in the regions, and property owners are benefiting from a reliable income. Has turned some farms around. Listen, John, I explained the source of those figures, how we know that for every solar and wind job we have 2.3 lost real jobs. That came from Spain. Scientifically peer-reviewed papers from Spain. I didn't pull them out of the ether. I pulled them out of the real world. And you're telling me there's a renewables boom in the regions. You're probably sitting there. I don't know where you're sitting, so I won't say. But you haven't been to the regions because you'll understand that in the regions, they are really angry about renewables. Because it's not just renewables with carpeting the landscape, dotting the horizons with hideous wind turbines. These renewables have to be scattered. They take up more land. They have to go further from the capital cities and other major provincial cities where the power is used. They have to have more transmission lines. We have to build 28,000 kilometres of new power lines. With a coal-fired power station, it takes up about 40 hectares, not far from a capital city, and it needs just one power line. That's it. You haven't got into the real world, mate. Go and talk to and listen to the people in the regions. They're screaming about this. When meanwhile, city people are saying, build more of them. But don't build them in Warringah, where Zali Steggall is. Don't build them there. Don't build them anywhere where the Teals are. Don't build them where the Greens live. Just build them where the farmers are in the regions. And part of the reason I went to North Queensland was to catch up with Stephen Nowakowski, a wonderful man, a true greenie, a true conservationist, a true lover of nature, a wonderful man, sharp brain, good with figures. He's gone out and he's mapped all of the solar and proposed and existing solar and wind developments and battery energy storage devices, the big batteries, so far in Australia. And we know that he's hitting a nerve because the Guardian's upset with him. Chris Bowen's upset with him. Some of the departments are telling lies about Stephen. But Stephen is now getting calls from people saying, you missed this installation or you missed this installation. So he's updating it. He is a cartographer. He's a map maker. He knows what he's doing. I watched him at work with his computer yesterday. He's a whiz. He's been making maps for his livelihood. That's what his job is. This guy knows what he's doing. He's got the area covered by wind, affected by wind turbines. He's got the area covered by the roads connecting the wind turbines. He's got the area covered by the solar panels. And it is hideous. It's monstrous what they're doing, what they've got planned. And if you think there are problems now, we haven't seen anything yet. But Stephen actually is a conservationist, a genuine conservationist, a genuine greenie. He stood some time ago as a Greens candidate for the Greens Party. Now he detests the Greens because his mates in the Greens won't recognise the damage that's being done by solar and wind and transmission lines. Just won't damage the waste, the death of our farming regions and the death of our rainforests, the death of our forested areas, the death of our natural environment. But he's gone a step further. He lives at Kuranda, and he loves it, North Queensland to bits. He just absolutely loves it. He's tracked the human damage too. So there's the environmental damage, there's the damage to the natural environment, the human environment, the economy, the society. Stephen is very, very upset about this. But he's not just getting upset, he's going out and getting the data and making a compelling case. Stephen Nowakowski. Let's get on to the unemployment rate. It's still fairly low compared to historical levels, but it's rising. But don't just look at the unemployment, look at the business closures. We've had record business closures in the last year. Record for small and medium businesses closing down. Energy is a direct cause of that. Many people are suspecting that the next year will be even worse. Energy is continuing to go up. And you haven't seen anything yet with energy prices. When you look at what's coming to the energy sector with more and more wind and solar, it's heading for a catastrophe. We're going over a cliff with not a plan. We're going over a cliff with a blindfold. There's annihilation of private industry in our country. Every business we lose pushes more people onto the job market, not just their employees, but the employers are out of a job too. And the single biggest employer of people in this country is small business sector. It employs far more than the large businesses. Labor is bringing more people into the country, unskilled, giving them houses as a priority over accommodation over Australians, keeping wage rates low. How does that help get Australians jobs? What does it do to wage pressure? It suppresses wages. No wonder the employment rate is going up because there's competition for unskilled jobs. While private jobs vanish, Labor is growing the public service. Growing the public service. Crazy. Better check what time it is. Wow, 3/4 of an hour. The government is now competing against the Australian business sector and the employment sector with taxpayer money. It's an economic disaster in the making. Speaking of disappointing events, Candace Owens, wonderful lady. I don't agree with everything she says, and she's sometimes very, very direct in her comments, which I love, but sometimes it upsets people, which is necessary. Regardless of whether you agree with it or not, she deserves to have an opinion, and she deserves to have that opportunity to give her opinion air. She should be allowed to speak. Our country is built on freedom of speech. It was built on freedom of speech. Maybe if she was nicest bride, she'd be allowed into Australia, but she hasn't been. And so what's going on now is the High Court has vindicated Tony Burke's decision, which he made personally, puffing at his chest, saying how proud he was to make the decision to ban Candace Owen. And the High Court vindicated it. It's free speech. Estimates, just a quick, you're starting to see the videos from our estimates performance come out, holding ministers and agencies accountable. We didn't get anywhere nearly the same number of agencies and departments and ministers to tackle this time. It was the worst organised Senate estimates I've ever experienced. We asked for 7 different energy agencies and departments. 2 fronted. The rest were dismissed because of the delay in the early sessions. Terribly organised. Energy, they wanted to hide. They succeeded. Housing, they wanted to hide. They succeeded. It was cut from the program because a lot of the key agencies that we wanted were put late in the program, so when there were delays in the early stages, they blew out. But we also got some good scalps. Well, in this case, it wasn't a scalp so much as the federal government has funded $1.2 billion in fire ant eradication. And as a result of that, fire ants are now in a far greater area. They haven't eradicated them, they've spread them. So I felt sorry for Minister Chisholm, Anthony Chisholm, because we weren't out to have a gotcha with him, but we were out to show that neither the minister, he just happened to be in the seat representing the Ag Minister, nor the department head had any clue about what was going on. It wasn't to embarrass Anthony, I don't mind Anthony, but it was to show that the federal government, Liberal and Labor, have no clue that their fire ant money, $1.3 billion, is going to suppress Queensland residents' rights, trample the regulations for safe use of pesticides. They just don't know. And it's time and time and time again that the bureaucrat and the minister had to say, I'm not aware of it, I'm not aware of it. So anybody who's been troubled by the National Fire Ant Eradication Program, get your act together, get your facts together, get the data, get your stories, tell the truth, put it in writing and send it to the Minister for Agriculture and the Minister overseeing the Fire Ant Eradication Program, and send it to the department head. We'll post something about that. Oh, and then how bad was the United Nations Human Rights Commission, Sex Commissioner? She told me that she can't make a distinction, give me an answer on females and males, men and women, because she hasn't got access to the chromosomes. At least they know that they don't know now. Have a look on social media. Shopping bags. How about playing the video, Ryan?
I've come down to Canberra to do estimates, and I had to do some shopping because I like to cook for myself. And I've been shopping. Guess what? I'm sure many of you are used to this. You buy these cheap rubbish bags that split and break on you all the time. I'm over it. I'm so angry about this. And 25 cents a bag. I'm sure many of you know how I feel about that. Of course, I had to buy it, didn't I? Because I'm in Canberra and I didn't carry my own bags with me. So anyway, this is what you have to put up with. So for the cost of living, I'm telling Woolies and Coles, get your act together with the bags. You charge a fortune for it, cost of living, people can't afford it, and it's ridiculous. I'm sure you're making a fortune out of it. Anyway, have a good day.
We used to use our Coles and Woolies shopping bags, plastic bags when we got them back in the good old days, as garbage bags, so double use. We used them as storage bags. We had a double use for them. We sometimes took them back to Coles and Woolies and used them a second time ourselves. But my wife and I just looked at each other when the rules came out and said, all they're going to do now is charge us for plastic bags. And that's exactly what they did. This is bullshit. We predicted it, and it's exactly as Pauline said. It's another added cost to the retail consumer, an added cost to the retail consumer. You pay now for paper bags, and you pay for plastic bags for your rubbish bin. That's it. And you know what I see in Canberra? We see, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3 rooms, 4 rooms in our office in Canberra. We've got 3 bins in each of those offices. And all 12 of the bins are lined with plastic. And they just come in, if you just drop one piece of paper in, they come in, roll it up and take it away and put another. They've got so much plastic bags being used by Canberra that the cleaners sensibly leave the roll of plastic bags in the bottom of the bin, so that when they take the top one out, they just get a new one straight away. Smart. Is this an environmental decision or an economic decision? Who's paying and who's profiting? We're paying. We the people, yet again, are paying. Who's profiting? Coles and Woolies. They've turned what was a cost into a profit centre for them. So there you go. What's next? I don't want to talk any more about plastic bags. Pauline said it so well. Oh, hypocrisy, I guess. Any questions and answers? We've got a few minutes left. I thought it would take less time than that, but what was that? You snuck up there? I only have time for 1 or 2. Yeah, okay. We haven't got the screen that allows me to see them anymore. So Ryan will pick them. If there's not a question for Q&A, because I've caught everyone on the hop, is there a statement that someone's made? He's normally faster than this. We've still got our training wheels on with this new setup in our office. Lancelot, he's always good. We got an assistant coming in. Oh, you couldn't see it. I can't see the comments, so what's Mick Arup saying? Up the top, right there. There. What's he saying? You can't read it? They're getting tired of looking at me, Ryan. Just pick a comment.
From Catherine Sarah, why can't we give a vote of no confidence in the government?
Oh, good question, actually. Very good question. We can move a motion to have as a vote of no confidence in the a motion of no confidence in the government. We can do that, but we've only got 4 One Nation senators, so 4 out of 76. We'd get beaten 72-4. Now, if we got some of the Nationals and maybe some of the proper Liberals, we might get 20. That's 20 to 56. We'd get thumped. So there's no point in raising it. It would just be a disaster. So the way to get a vote of no confidence is to get more One Nation people into the Senate, more One Nation people into the lower house. So 2 things happen then. We'd have even better chance of holding them accountable. So the government would be less likely to do stupid things than this one. The second thing is, if we got to a majority, then we'd be able to move a vote of no confidence in ourselves. But we probably wouldn't do that because we wouldn't need to. So I'm just being funny there. But the point is, a vote of no confidence is won when the majority of people have no confidence in the government. At the moment in the Senate, we've got a majority combined with the Labor and the Greens, 39 out of 76. That's a majority. They would just defeat every motion we put to them. The best vote of no confidence you can do is to vote for One Nation at the next election and get more One Nation people into Parliament. The next vote of no confidence you can do is to hold your members of Parliament accountable. Call them up directly on the telephone. Persist and persist and persist until you get through. Write paper letters to them, not emails, paper letters. Go and visit them in their offices. Hold them accountable and remind them that we work for the people. The people, the taxpayers, pay our wages. We're supposed to listen to the people and serve the people and put forward what the people want. That's the best way of showing you no confidence. Do it like that, and then vote more people into One Nation, into Parliament.
From Urban Fan 27, it takes a lot of fossil fuels to create one windmill. They kill birds, are a blight on the landscape, and cannot withstand the very high winds.
Yes, urban landscape. They're terrible. They raise the cost of electricity. Every wind turbine you see, every solar panel you see in a mass industrial site, industrial generation complex, raises the cost of electricity. Every one of them, because they're all subsidised by the electricity users. That's the first thing. The second thing, they chop up the environment. They have to destroy the environment to build the damn things. And you raise a very good point. I haven't seen the actual figures, but I'm told by people who've done the study that over the life cycle of a wind turbine, it produces more carbon dioxide than it saves. Remember, carbon dioxide is not a problem anyway. You're breathing it out now. It's essential for all life on this planet. But I know you don't, but those who believe that carbon dioxide from human activity needs to be cut while nature continues producing huge amounts of it. When you look at the construction of the steel and the fiberglass and the cement and the bulldozing of the country, then there's carbon dioxide produced in that. The carbon dioxide that the wind turbine supposedly saves in the production of electricity is less over the life of the wind turbine than is produced in the life of the wind turbine. So that means it's a net producer of carbon dioxide. It's complete garbage what they're saying. Complete garbage. Okay, let's must remember Sunday's March for Australia. Hope the organisers have done a good job of excluding the wrong sort of people from the marches. but I'm trusting Scott Challen in Queensland. I'll be speaking in Brisbane. So come down to the march in your capital city. Come down to the march in Cairns. A lot of the provincial cities. I know they're having one in Mackay on the waterfront there, Blue Water Quay. But other towns, Noosa probably have one. Gympie probably have one. But check it out. Go down to your March for Australia on Sunday. That's the weekly wrap-up from the only opposition party, the sensible party, the practical party, the only party listening to and serving the people of Australia. Enjoy your weekend. See you at the march.